Hello, all. This is Victor Dantas. We are about 5 minutes away from getting started. I just want to take a couple of minutes to give a quick introduction, both an introduction to the event as well as to Julie. This thing came about after I was talking with friends of mine who have been laid off, and I can assume that you have experienced similar situation where people are now being placed out of the job market and are enduring difficulties. And so we had the idea of putting an event together to help out somehow, and the rest is history. Um, I wanted to introduce Julie fairly quickly here. Julie is an MVP for many years now, and she carries a lot of knowledge as she works closely with Microsoft on training material and other product development efforts. So, what are you about to hear? It's not only knowledge of what's new, but she carries the vision for the product for the years ahead as well. Julie, thank you so very much for making yourself available to this conference. I hope that it will help folks out during this time of crisis. And again, thank you very much. I want to acknowledge also Raz Dynamics is on the call. Raz is the leader of 365 Saturday. He's been fully invested in this event, and I think it's 11 p.m. or 12 a.m. his time, and he's here with us still. So, thank you so much. Thank you for to everybody who decided to join. I hope you can take profit of what's about to happen throughout the weekend. Thank you so much.
So, Victor, would you like me to get started or wait another minute or two?
Oh, let's give folks until 6 sharp for your time.
Okay.
Uh, if you wanna talk a little bit about your story, maybe it would inspire people who are beginning their journey as well. I dearly refer to Julie as the mother of all MVPs. It's not because of age, because she's really young, but just she carries that heart for supporting people in the community.
Well, thank you very much, Victor. I actually got here very much by accident. So, my background is in business. I have a master's in business, but I got here by accident because I was helping my husband randomly. He's been in software for a long time. I was kind of helping him run the business here and there. And then I broke my leg and I had to sit on my ass for 6 months. And he put a laptop on my lap and said, let's make software. And then I discovered I was good at it. And that was better than 15 years ago. And here we are now.
That's awesome.
So while we are here, I want to encourage everyone to share your questions that you have. Ask me to explain something in any more detail. I don't mind if you need to ask a question and you need to come off of mute. We can get one of the guys to unmute you if necessary. If your question is difficult to type out and you have the chance to speak the question, then that's more than okay with me.
Yep, and we'll be doing our best to monitor the questions, and we'll funnel them your way as well as they come in. Raz, I know you are on mute there. Is there anything that you want to add to the discussion as we get started? Maybe he took a break. All right, Julie, take it away. I think you're good.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Victor. Thanks, Raz. Thanks for everyone who's helped organize this great event. I have worked on organizing events a lot in my past, and I know the amount of effort that goes into this. So I really appreciate all the effort, and I really appreciate that you all are here looking forward to learning. It's Friday afternoon or evening, maybe Saturday morning if you're in APAC. So I really appreciate that you're here. So a little bit about me. I went ahead and included a picture of myself. I generally don't, but it's really hard right now to chat with video or if I'm not in front of you. But this is myself and Xena. This is my German Shepherd puppy. We were out playing in the snow the other day. As Victor said, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been involved in the creation and editing, authoring, publishing of several different books. Did someone forward the slides? I think everybody might have control of the slides. So anyhow.
Let me fix that.
Okay. I love to hear from folks. So if you have follow-up questions or anything like that, let me know. Call me out on Twitter. Let's see, I'm going to take control back of my presentation. Okay. So call me out on Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever it is you need to do to find me and ask me the questions. I would love to hear from you and love to help guide you. So for our agenda, we're going to talk through all the different moving parts of the Power Platform. And then after we talk through the individual components, then we will jump into what I feel is the easiest launching point for someone who is new. So we'll go through those different pieces and then hopefully guide you on a path where if this is totally new to you, then you can jump right in and get started. So the Microsoft Power Platform is actually an evolution. A lot of people think that the Power Platform is new, and it is not new. It actually just has a new name. It started many years ago as Dynamics CRM. I began working with Dynamics CRM in version 3, and that was not quite 15 years ago. And then it evolved into what we see today as Power Apps. And then we've got the addition here of Power BI, Power Automate, which you may also hear called Flow, and Power Virtual Agents. Those are individual products. Then you have services that are available through all of these as well, and that includes the Common Data Service, the Data Connectors, and AI Builder. So let's jump into Power BI. So Power BI is Power Business Intelligence. It is either a service or an application. More often than not, it's a combination of both. You can get started with this for free at powerbi.com and try it out. You've got some limitations on what it is you can do, but it's got a lot of great detail that you can try out without making any kind of financial contributions or even giving a credit card for later on. So with Power BI, let's just read these bullet points here for a quick second. Make sense of your data with ease and drive quick and confident decisions across your organization. So what we see here is a dashboard, and we are showing this data in a visual way, lots of different choices for how we can show it, and then anyone can consume it. So you can share these with people in your organization. You can share it to some degree with people who are licensed or not licensed. You can share it to some degree with people outside of your organization. So then the next bullet is we reduce the amount of time spent in data prep and spend more time getting answers with AI-driven insights. Okay, that sounds like a lot, but what we're doing is connecting you to the data that you already have. Power BI is not a data source. Power BI talks to the data that you already have, and it presents it to you in context so that your users can consume it and hopefully learn from that reporting. And then remove the complexity of managing multiple analytics solutions with a single unified platform that gives every employee access to insights. So this is great, but also to administrators, it might sound kind of scary because do you want all of your employees to have access to data? Maybe, maybe not, depends on your organization. And without going into a ton of detail, there are things you can do to limit that and to make sure that people only have access to the data that they are supposed to have access to. So our anatomy of a dashboard. So any data source, you can literally, I've not found one data source that I cannot connect to. So I can connect it to my Dynamics data source. I can connect it to, sorry, someone keeps taking control of the meeting. So if you could stop trying to forward my slides, that would be very helpful. So any data, you can connect to your Dynamics data, you can connect it to your proprietary database, legacy database systems, other Microsoft databases, wherever your data exists, you can connect it to Power BI and gain the insights from that. Sharing the insights, you can share it on-premise. So on-premise is when you have your own computer, your own program, your own server. In the cloud, where Microsoft, Amazon, Google, someone else is managing that server, and then mobile devices. And those that can be shared with anyone inside your organization, outside your organization. Seamless integrations. You're going to hear this word a lot, especially if you're new to technology. People are going to talk about seamless integrations. And sometimes it's seamless and sometimes it's supposed to be seamless. And so take it easy on yourself if you're just starting out and it doesn't feel seamless. Even sometimes for us, people who have been here for a long time, it doesn't always feel seamless. So integrating with Power Automate for workflow automations, integrating with Power Apps where you can include Power BI in a model-driven app. You can include Power BI in a Canvas app. You can include a Canvas app in a Power BI dashboard and so on. All of that is pretty straightforward. Extensibility models, I just spoke about embedding. So from a practical perspective, let's say, for example, I have a Power BI dashboard. I am a regional manager of some retail shops, and I'm out one day making my stops at all the retail shops, and I want to mark some things for follow-up activities. So I have the data, maybe I have year-over-year sales, maybe I have comparison to different regions and so on, and I want to mark something for follow-up. I can have an embedded Canvas app that will allow me to take a note in context and add it as a to-do item on my Microsoft to-do list. And we have that in a lab scenario, and students build that in about 30 minutes. WYSIWYG design experience. So for those of you who don't know, what you see is what you get, WYSIWYG. It gives you pixel perfect drag and drop design experience. And that is genuinely what you can expect. You'll hear that term sometimes overused, but for us here with building the Power BI dashboard, it really is pretty straightforward. So our data visualizations, I remember back when we were excited to have a dozen different data visualizations, and now we have hundreds of them. So you can use the standard charts that we've all been seeing for years, or you have options to add different visualizations to represent different data in different ways. And I would strongly suggest as you're building out these dashboards that you take the time to see how the user would consume it in the different visualizations, because maybe old reliable is a pie chart, but maybe it's better represented by a tree. Native intelligence. So this is one of my favorite parts. And this is something we've had for a little while with Power BI, and it's still one of my favorite things. You can ask a question of your data without having built a report, and it will return to you the answer with the data. So I can ask it, what were year-to-date sales for my location in Colorado Springs? And it would give me that data in response. So I can ask it a natural language question without having to know the language of the data. I just know my language of what I'm doing, and I can ask that question and get that response. So then we also have big data support. Everyone has all kinds of different amounts of data, and most organizations have small databases and big databases. And Power BI allows you to consume that throughout your Power BI dashboard experience. So next component of Power Platform is Power Apps. So Power Apps come in a few different varieties. We'll talk about each of them independently here in a moment. Power Apps are Canvas apps, where I'm building something designed specifically for a phone or tablet experience or web experience. I'll be honest with you, I consume Canvas apps in a web browser sometimes. Model-driven apps, which are those that evolved from the Dynamic CRM platform, where it is an application that has a perfectly good design experience, but it's more centered around data, less centered around design. And then we have portals, which allow you to expose your information to external, sometimes internal, facing stakeholders. So for a portal example, it could be something like a utility company offering its constituents and customers the ability to log into their accounts and see details of the accounts, and you determine what details they can and cannot see. So all of these have different level of efforts. All of these have different licensing and models, but all of them also offer you the chance to try them out for free and to build some great things in a trial environment. So going through our bullet points, easily build web and mobile apps filled with low-code development. So I do not write code. I'm sure I could figure it out if I wanted to. I have no desire to write code. There are people who love to write code, and I am not one of them. So when it comes to making a Power App of any variety, the best you're going to get out of me is an Excel-like expression, unless someone's giving me something to copy and paste. It's just not who I am. And I've been making applications for years. You don't have to be someone that writes code to be effective at building apps. Empowering business users to solve their own problems and easily share apps while maintaining security and governance. Well, what we do here is specifically around Canvas apps. You may have someone who's discovered a need that we just don't have a work stream that's covered in what we've built out. I have this extensive database. I've got, sorry, someone's taking control of my slides again.
Julie, we are working to figure it out. Folks, please don't click around your screen.
And now I've lost it and I have to load it again. Give me just a minute here.
Again, apologies on that.
That's okay. That's part of what happens, right? Says that it's loading, so just take a second here. You could let me know when it shows for you.
Coming up. Yeah, it's up.
Okay, so let me forward to where we were. Almost there. Click, click, click. Okay, so we were here. So I think we were on the second bullet point, talking about empowering business users to solve their own problems. So when a business user, the go-to story is Joe the accountant, right? So Joe uses the system software all day, every day, and he realizes that, you know what, there's this one little work stream that I do every day that really I could do it more efficiently if I could just build out my own experience. Well, that's when we get Joe in accounting to build a Canvas app, because Joe is the subject matter expert on his job. So we have enabled Joe to be able to build a Canvas app because it's easy enough for Joe the accountant to understand how to do it. Joe's administrator has set up guardrails so that he still only has access to the data he's supposed to have access to. And then Joe builds an app that everybody in accounting can use. And then we've got Pro Developer Extensibilities, enables a no-limit platform that spans business users to professional developers. So we've been building what we've called XRM applications for a very long time. And that has always included a component of developers and non-developers. So non-developers have the chance to build loads and loads of things. They can build on screens, they can use formulas, they can build data models, they can build forms, they can do first level and second level automations. But when it comes to that deeper integration, when it comes to a custom connection to a legacy system, then we may need to engage with a pro developer. Someone who's going to come in and write code that can then make those two systems communicate with one another. Make sure if anybody has, oh, there we go, we have a question. I can see the chat window. So the question I have here is, for someone new to Power Platform, what would you recommend should be a path for learning and adoption? Well, you're starting at the right place here by being here at this conference. I would recommend to look either at the sessions for this conference, or also you can look at the Power 24 conference, which you can find all those recorded sessions at 365.training, and see what interests you, because I might be mostly interested in model-driven applications, but you have a knack for Power Automate, so your path will be a little bit different. But the Microsoft Learn platform has a lot of different resources, and I'm actually going to ask Victor or Raz if they could find and plug in a link for the Microsoft Learn platform into the chat so that everyone has the ability to get to it. It is a free learning platform, and myself, along with several other MVPs and industry experts, are contracted by Microsoft to create that content. So you're getting that high-level content for free. Thank you so much, Victor. So let's talk about a Canvas app. Now, to put this in context for you, typically speaking, when you're making a Canvas app, that is for a user to consume on the go. You can make it for the phone, you can make it for tablet, you can also consume it in a web browser, but your typical scenario is going to be through an app player. So what we have here is the Power Apps player that is now playing the app that either I have made or has been shared with me. So a Canvas app, any platform support. And I'm not a big fan of absolutes, but the primary players. So this natively works on iOS devices. This natively works on Google/Android devices, and this natively works on Windows platform. It gives you the ability to engage with that device's peripherals. I can use a GPS, I can use the camera, and so on. This is an oversimplification, but you can share these apps with the folks in your organization or with folks outside of your organization. Now, if you're sharing with people inside your organization, the assumption is they are a licensed user within your organization. And if you're sharing with people outside of your organization, they don't have to consume your own license from your company, but if they have a license with their company, then they don't need additional licensing to use an app that you have shared. So seamless integration, we talked about this with the Power BI, where I can embed a small single function Canvas app on a Power BI dashboard. And it doesn't have to be a small single function app. it's just not practical from a user experience to have too many interactions and too many screens on that embedded Canvas app. But I can also take that Canvas app and embed it onto a model-driven app form. I'm looking here at the chat window for just a minute.
I got you covered, Julie. You can.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So extensibility model, we talked about this on the prior slide, where you can do loads of things if you are not a developer, but if you hit any kind of limitations, any kind of roadblocks, engage with a professional developer and they can extend it. So we'll talk here in a minute about different connectors, but if the connector that you need doesn't exist, you can build one. And I've never found a system we can't talk to. So even something, an old school mainframe computer, we were able to communicate with. Again, the WYSIWYG designer, what you see is what you get. And this one is, I think, a more fair representation of the WYSIWYG designer, where you are dragging and dropping items. You can use templates. You can have the app run live with the data that you are intending to connect with so that you have a realistic representation of what your users are going to see, whether it's a single user application that you're making for yourself, or if your goal is to share it with everybody in the accounting department. So data connectivity, I missed the number on this one. Right now we have over 300 services that have official connectors. And by official, that means that it's gone through a vetting process with Microsoft and with the owner of that connection. So if I'm connecting to Adobe, if I'm connecting to Julie's database, then the owner of that service, Adobe, that owner of Julie's database, has submitted the connector to Microsoft. Microsoft has confirmed that it works, that it's not malicious, and so on, and has given it an endorsement. And there's over 300 of those available. And with those, you don't need to have a developer to consume them. You don't need to have someone who is a professional code writer to be able to use those. Built-in data platform. We will talk more about the Common Data Service in a few minutes. And it's got the option to use the Common Data Service as your data source, but it's not required. You can bring your own data source. A lot of people are building these based on SharePoint because that's their comfort level. A lot of people build this based on Excel documents. And a lot of people build them on the Common Data Service. And then we've got app logic. Logic is, what do we expect the application to do? I'm a user, I'm looking at the first screen, I want to make a selection of devices to compare if I'm shopping for something. Then on the next screen, I want to see the comparison between the devices. What we build to make that happen is called logic. And so I can build out all that logic on my own using formulas that are much like Excel formulas that I can build that into and have that experience built out for my users. I can also use this to participate in a lot of different automation options that we'll see here in just a minute. So I said there were 3 app types. We were just talking about the Canvas apps. Now we have model-driven apps. If you're looking here at the slide, you see a screen represented on a Surface device. And this is the general look and feel of a model-driven application. I have no problem with this. It's very predictable. I have customization options. I have things that I can build to increase user adoption, to change some of the layout points and so on. But this application is built around data. So we're creating apps around forms and processes. So we've got this relational data. We call them entities. And from those entities, I want to build out forms. I want to build out lists so that my users can see the different data records that are all related to one another. With this application, I have what we call a responsive design. So that means that whatever device my users are consuming this application from, that the design fits their device. If I turn my device portrait from landscape, it will resize. If I running it through a browser window and I change the size of the browser window, it will resize and reflow so the user has the most optimum experience possible. We're seeing this seamless integration again. This one, I have a lot more experience with the integration because this is where I came from, was the model-driven apps. And building out Power BI tiles so that you can see the information. Super quick and easy. We've got Dynamics 365 integration, super easy. Automation using Power Automate, or here on our screen, we see what we call business process flow. All of those build right in and are super straightforward for the people who are making it to configure. So the extensibility model, here we've got the ability to add custom actions. We've got the ability to run custom code through something called plugins, and even more things that we can do when we engage with those developers. Yes, this one was written by marketing, design sophisticated entity forms quickly. So what that really means is I can build this out within the limits that they've given me. I can say where on the different form the different input fields will live. I can include what I want in a guided process for my users. I can add automation so that I have, if this field equals 0, add this field to the form, and so on. This allows us to have a lot of easy reuse across multiple apps. So with a model-driven application, I've got a database at the middle. It's a relational database. So a relational database means that I've got data tables that kind of depend on each other. So I have an account, which could be an account in a traditional sense where I'm in business, or maybe I don't have accounts, but I have families that are family units that basically they resemble an account, but then I have individuals that are associated with that account. I would have a primary contact, I'd have secondary contacts, and I'd have information about each of those. So accounts and contacts have a relationship. Once I've configured that at a base level, I can reuse that information on several applications. So a built-in data platform, this is one where it's not an option, but you use Common Data Service to build your model-driven apps. It is just the data source that you have. And then automation. A lot of people, myself included, think that it is all kinds of fun to build out the automation, to challenge yourself to step through the different logic necessary for your users to go through the experience. What kind of things can we add behind the scenes so that it doesn't interfere with the user experience? So I see on the chat that folks are struggling with seeing things. Right now, I have the anatomy of a portal app slide that I just loaded. Does anyone see that?
Hey, Julie, it's still showing the anatomy of a Canvas app.
Okay, I will go ahead and stop presenting and represent and see how that goes. Just a minute here. Sorry for those that were seeing it and missed it. It'll just be a minute. I know that with everyone working from home and all these Teams meetings happening, that we are certainly testing the limits of the system. Luckily, I don't have a ton of slides to go through. Okay, so this was the last one I delivered. And then we got to anatomy of a portal app. So do we see portal app?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for the, let me know.
No
So
problem.
a portal app is just like it sounds. We all use portals all the time. I was logged in today on my banking portal because I needed to pay my contractors. Now, a banking portal has loads of all kinds of sensitive information. I'm not sure that's something that I personally want to build, but I have been using these portals for better than 10 years. They have evolved into slightly different product, but a portal, exactly what it sounds like. It's a website that you build so that your stakeholders, usually external stakeholders, can access important information. They can access it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so that they can self-service whatever it is that is your business transaction. This too is a what you see is what you get design experience. I will tell you that this one, sometimes as you're building it out, sometimes the refresh of what you're building feels a little bit clumsy, but I can also tell you that they are making improvements to that experience all the time. This also talks with the Common Data Service. You may see people write about the Common Data Service and call it CDS, but that gives you that relational database so that you have that target data to populate your portal. Data security, you can fine tune what users have access to. So we've got internal people who are going to be licensed users, customer service reps, employees, or so on. They have their security managed through one collection of security options, but then your external users have a separate way to manage those permissions because you want their experience to be very, very specific to only what they should be seeing. So maybe I have first level self-help articles that are available for anyone to see. Then if I want someone to be able to interact on self-help chat forums, for example, maybe I want them to be an authenticated user, so I give them access to that. But then if I want someone to be able to look at their devices and request specific help for a device, then they need to have information about themselves that I can also then control. So Philippe says, is the portal a way that external clients with no licenses can connect to your app? Yes, sort of. Someone's paying for it, right? So even if you are not a licensed user in my organization, I can allow you to have access to the data that I determine you should have access to, but then I'm paying for it. So you're not necessarily a licensed user, but someone is paying for it. And licensing question, does external users still have to pay per login 24 hour? I do not know. I am far from a licensing expert. I usually try my best to deflect those questions. So I think if you scroll up in the chat, that Victor posted a link to the licensing guide. And if you don't find your answer there, then I would either tweet out and ask the product team for your answer specifically, or go over to the forums at community.dynamics.com or at the user groups and ask your questions there. So authentication, I can authenticate with my own authentication, where it's a username and password that's only for my site, or I can use industry standard authentication, so I don't have to build authentication. So I'm all for working smarter, not harder. And with this authentication, I don't see a reason why I would build my own. I would take advantage of some of those external providers so that I don't have to worry about that. And it's something familiar to people as they are out exploring things on the internet. It's very similar to your experiences elsewhere. And as always, extensibility. You can do loads of things with this without having to worry about code in the slightest. However, you can then extend further and make use of custom code. Power Automate. So this is where we are doing automation. We want automation to make our users' experience better. So we need to be very considerate of what we're doing with automation so that it doesn't interfere with the user's experience. So we can run automation in the background so that your users don't have to wait for an automation to complete. We can run a business process flow, which is a guided on-screen user experience and a model-driven app. And so I can take my business processes that are manual and automate them so that my users can spend less time performing those functions and more time performing their individual functions. So with the with the Power Automate flows, with the business process flows, with our other automation choices, we have the concept of a trigger. What causes this to happen? And then what does it do? Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. The slides have stopped again, and it stopped for me this time.
Okay. Does anybody else have the slides? I have the Power Automate slide up right now.
My one is fine.
I can't see the slide either.
Because we don't have very many users in the chat window, so I don't know what's really going on.
Okay. So I can try one more thing. Give me just a minute here. There's always a way. We can MacGyver this, right? Let me, instead of sharing the PowerPoint, let me share my screen. So do you see my PowerPoint now?
Yeah, we do. Lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, okay, we see automate and integrate business processes with Power Automate. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so now I'm just presenting a different way. So, in its finest, simplest terms, something causes an automation to happen and something is the result of an automation. So something as simple as we need an approval. So I have a sales process where I have a potential sale valued at $1 million. Before I allow my salesperson to close that as lost, I want to engage with a manager. So before that opportunity closes, I'm going to send a notification for approval to the manager so that they can maybe try to save that deal. But it could also be all kinds of details and all kinds of choices and branching and all levels of complication. But it doesn't have to be. And you can combine the different logic into a single flow that has different branches, or you can have a collection of them that work off of one another. Okay, so I've lost there we go. So anatomy of a flow. So Power Automate is the name brand. Flows are what we do there, okay? So any platform support, again, this goes back to the major players. So this will interact just fine with iOS, with Android, with Windows. Share flows like documents. There's a few more considerations involved, but once the decision has been made that sharing the flow is what you need to do, it is super simple to do. Seamless integration. This one for me is really true. So once we decide that we need some automation to happen in Teams, we need some automation to happen in Dynamics, it just does. Also, the extensibility model. Most of these flows can be done, and everyday flows are made without writing a single line of code. You do have to possess some critical thinking around how best to deliver the flow, but that's something that if you understand the business process or the business problem that you're trying to solve, that to me is a bigger battle than understanding the critical thinking of building a flow. What you see is what you get design experience. This one has a few idiosyncrasies. So maybe things should expand and collapse for you to be able to see more things on your screen at the same time. If you're a more visual person or you want to see fewer things, you have some choices for how you consume that. The data connectivity, we've talked about this already, but it can connect to better than 300 services at this point in time, or your own custom one. Talks natively to the Common Data Service. You also have a few additional options for automation and a couple of shortcuts available to you when you're doing flows with Common Data Service. And then logic and automation, that's what this is all about, right? So this thing happens, so this other thing needs to happen as a result. Our next product we're going to talk about are chatbots. This is something that is fairly new, and I will be the first to admit I have not messed with these at all myself. So the goal of the chatbot is to have your subject matter experts create bots for customer service so that those bots can be your first line of customer service before you take on the additional resource necessary with an individual. So as an example, I interacted with the bot when I needed to cancel a flight. It was on Iceland Air, and they had chat available on Facebook. So I contacted them on chat on Facebook, gave them my reservation information. They confirmed all of that, all with a bot. But then when it came time to actually cancel the flight, I had to have a verbal conversation with a customer service representative. So they were able to build that intelligent bot so that I could communicate with and get rid of as many of those barriers as possible. But as a safety agent, they made sure that I communicated with an actual person prior to canceling my flight. So to our anatomy of a virtual agent, anytime, right? So it is a bot. So whenever you have customers that want to interact with you, that is available. Reducing costs, because People are expensive. It's the highest cost of doing business is paying for people, right? So what we can do is we can train this bot to be that first level so that our experts are spending time solving a lot of other problems. So instead of having my expensive customer service agent answer the phone that says, yes, we close at 9 p.m., I can have this bot answer that to say, yes, we close at 9 p.m. So the interface anywhere, meeting your audience on whatever channel it is they are existing on. So for me, I met Iceland Air at Facebook. That was easy because I was there and they were there. Intuitive design interface. You don't have to be a data scientist. You don't have to be a software developer. You can be that subject matter expert that can interact with it and build using your knowledge as a subject matter expert, not having to learn a new skill set. This is our natural language conversations again. We talked about this with Power BI reporting, but this as the ability to take that natural language conversation, the everyday conversational tone that people use, and then turn that into an intelligent conversation where that bot can understand it and make inferences and communicate with the customers. Connecting to those hundreds of services again, which means that you can take action on the conversation. We want to monitor performance because we want to make sure that our customers are happy and that our bots are giving out correct information. And we want to get additional insights whenever possible. And using the Dynamics 365 customer service insights gives you more options on that data that you can analyze. So that is our 4 products that we have in the Power Platform. So that's Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agent. Now on that graphic that I showed you, we had additional items. We had Common Data Service, we had connectors, and we had AI Builder. So Common Data Service is our relational database that is based upon industry standard pieces of data. So when anybody has wanting to build an app, they get a jump start using this Common Data Service because it has things like accounts, contacts, activities, and so on, as well as a form builder, as well as a security layer, as well as a view builder, and those different moving parts that we get right away, so that it's a jump start with a relational database. Connecting to data and services. These are our connectors. We've got the built-in ones as well as custom ones that I can build. Gives me the option to connect to anything. So I'm all for rebuilding systems that need to be rebuilt. But also, not every system has to be rebuilt. So if I have a system that is doing a good job, that has important data, I don't know that I would recommend rebuilding it just for the sake of rebuilding it. And we don't have to. With a connector, I can connect whatever new application I'm building to that old data and use just what I need. And then AI Builder. So AI Builder is a collection of artificial intelligence tools that I can add to these other things that I've already been talking about. So object detection, I can look at an image and I can point out, this is a chair, this is a lamp. I can point out, this is Pepsi product, this is a Coke product. And then I can do something with that data. So if I'm using it to count inventory on a store shelf, I can then count those products, add that data to my CDS database, and increase my inventory numbers. I can do sentiment analysis where I can gather the sentiment of customer service input, for example. I can do text classification. If I'm an airline and somebody sends me an email that says that my plane seat was broken, but the food was good and the flight attendant was nice. Well, which department's going to get that? Well, the seat was broken needs to go to maintenance. The flight attendant was nice needs to go to HR, and the food was good needs to go to catering. So I can classify that information and automatically do things with that. Once I have that data, then it can participate in the automation that I'm already going to be doing. So we talked through all the different moving parts, and it's been a lot. And I know it's overwhelming. So what I want to give you in the next 10 minutes is a practical point of entry, where if you're looking for what's next, you're looking for something new, maybe this is someplace that you can look. And we're going to talk about the different types of Power Apps, because to me, this is the fastest point of entry, because you can do something with each of these in just a matter of a couple of hours and have something that is ready to go and ready to share and ready to use. So as a refresher, Canvas apps, starting with the user experience, highly, highly customizable, more so than any of the other things that we're going to talk about. And you can mash up from different data surfaces. Then we have model-driven apps. And the model-driven apps is how my brain thinks. I am a three-dimensional thinker. So when I talk about data in my head, I'm building like with Tinker Toys and connecting all the databases. And if you could see me right now, I'm talking with my hands and building databases in the air. So for me, this is where I'm most comfortable, is building the model-driven apps, where you've got the data model and you're building out automation, you're building out the user experience and so on. And then we have portals, and this focus of these is that external users. So where do you start? Well, that depends. And that's not just me speaking as a consultant. That is a lot of different things. So starting with Canvas, it can be CDS data-driven, but it doesn't have to be. So if you're more concerned with the user experience and the data is incidentally important, maybe this is the right place to start. If you know that you've got very specific task-focused work streams to deal with, Canvas apps is a good place to start. Depending upon the devices your users are going to be consuming this with, it may work out better with the Canvas app. You have more choices. If someone's going to be using a touchscreen versus a mouse, then you have more granular control over the size of things and how you're presenting it to people with the Canvas apps. With model-driven, they say it's back office / process focused, and I kind of agree with that, but I think that almost anyone can be trained to use a model-driven app. It very much feels like an office-like experience. When you're building out a model-driven app, it also kind of feels like an office-like experience to me. You can start with a model-driven app that is a Microsoft first-party product like Dynamics 365 Sales, and see how that works. And then the application that you build as a model-driven app would be a peer to those. So you get the same options for automation, the same options for building out screens and so on as those first-party applications. You get a built-in security layer. So I don't have to build out anything additional to determine who can see what and do what. And we've got end-to-end business applications for users, so they can spend their entire time in this one app that we are building and not have to bounce around to different things. And when it comes to portals, this is usually your first go-to option when it's an external stakeholder. You can also use these for internal stakeholders, but when people think of portals, they think of external. And so this is a website, this is a web application, and it's fed with CDS data. I have built-in options for handling different languages where I can build it out in English and have translated labels in French and German. And that is very simple. The user also gets the responsive design. So here we've got this experience in a landscape layout, but if you turn your device the other way, you make it on a phone, then you're still getting the responsive experience and you don't have to build it more than once. You just build that portal once and it responds for the user. When it comes to big picture, you should consider using all the different app types for their appropriate audience. It's not something that you have to just pick one and stick to it. You can use all of them in the single tenant and answer the call of whatever users you have to serve. So I'm going to escape out of my PowerPoint and see if there are questions that are waiting for me.
So Julie,
Yes.
Victor here, there was one question earlier. Somebody was posing the question around why would it make sense to build a Power Apps Portals app versus a Canvas app? You know, the classic.
Sure. So, well, a lot of it depends on what you expect your user's experience to be, but also it's licensing. So to use Canvas apps, you need to have a license somewhere. So I can have my license from my company, and then Victor invite me to use a Canvas app that his company built, and I can use that. But Victor could not invite my mother-in-law to use that app because she has no license. However, if there was a portal and I had things I needed to interact with on Victor's database, then I could do that as simply an authenticated portal user without a license. And my mother-in-law could do it as well. She wouldn't have to have a license. She would just have to be authenticated. Does that answer the question, you think, Victor?
I think it does. I think it does. And then one other caveat to it is the authentication provider on the two technologies. On portals, you can use open authentication. So you could use Facebook, Google, and Azure B2C for authentication, whereas on a Canvas app, you can't. So that's another part of it. We have a couple more minutes, and then we have the next session starting soon. Um, if you have questions, you wanna quickly pose them. We can take probably one more, and then we have to turn the page. Julie, thanks so much for your time. I'm sorry for the disruption, and
That's okay.
we'll get better at this.
There's always a way, right?
That's right. That's right. So we have a survey on Julie's session. If you want to scan the QR code and provide that feedback, it'll be great so that we can do things better later on. All right. Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks, folks.
And thank you so much, Victor.
Well, thank you. Folks, the next session is from Mary Thompson. I think she comes from an admin background into the Power Platform. So if you want to go back to the calendar and join that particular session, we'll be starting in a couple of minutes. Thank you. Bye-bye.